He's sure about this?
We need to figure out what changes the timeline, and we only have 3 days. Considering the precious little time we have, and that we haven't been able to reach the others, we must find the Watcher. If the Queen is right, the Watcher is the only one who can help us. Now, let's see where the Queen's coordinates take me.
As long as I've lived on this planet, I can count on one hand the number of times I've been called Elorian. Who are you? Where are you from?
France.
No, not just France. Anyone who comes around knowing where I'm from, they're not from anywhere remotely around here, planetarily speaking.
You're a beautiful girl. Good girl.
She doesn't usually take to strangers.
Because she knows I'm not a threat.
Whatever, man. Stay, go. I'm locking the doors for good either way.
The fact that you're leaving at the moment that I find you proves to me that I have come to the right place. I was told I had 3 days to stop something very critical from happening.
Good luck with that.
I was given coordinates to this place to find a Watcher.
This place is a pressure cooker. You know they're actually killing the planet? Truth is, whatever you want it to be, facts aren't even facts anymore. A few folks have enough resources to fix all the problems for the rest, but they won't. Because their greatest fear is having less. They got one tiny ball in the entire galaxy, and all this species wants to do is fight. I've given them long enough.
It's not too late. The problem isn't time.
It's not too late.
It's you.
It's not too late.
What you're experiencing is because I'm repeating to you now words you will say back to me in the future. You told me about it once, many tomorrows ago. It's called AF something.
AFCAL. Time sickness.
A uniquely Elorian condition that occurs only when the timeline has been affected.
Doesn't matter to me, old man. Once I leave, I'll be fine.
Distance offers no protection from time. This wrong must be righted, something which only you can help me do.
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything.
Is it all we need?
You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.
Models are giving me a headache.
10 minutes.
Became terribly interested in the molecular structure of water and what affects it. Now, water is the most receptive of the 4 elements. Mr. Emoto thought perhaps it would respond to non-physical events. So he set up a series of studies, applied mental stimuli, and photographed it with a microscope.
For one sample of water, we drop about 0.5 cc's onto each 50 petri dishes. Then we take those 50 petri dishes and freeze them in a freezer at minus 25 degrees Celsius for about 3 hours. We take those frozen samples into a refrigerator that is set at minus 5 degrees Celsius, where a microscope with a camera is set up. There we take photographs of each of the 50 water drops individually. We first take photographs of water that we did not put any information in. Then we take the water with information and do the same procedure just described. We take those before and after photographs and compare the differences. When we projected the feeling of love and thanks to water, it made the most beautiful crystal. At times like this, I think water is at peace.
This first picture is a picture of water from the Fujiwara Dam. And this picture is the same water after receiving a blessing from a Zen Buddhist monk. Now, in this next series of pictures, Mr. Emoto printed out words, taped them to bottles of distilled water, and left them out overnight. This first photograph is a picture of the pure distilled water, just the essence of itself. These subsequent photographs, as you can see, are each different. This is the chi of love. And we move along here to thank you. And you can see where he taped that to this bottle here. But if you read Japanese, you already knew that. Now, Mr. Emoto speaks of the thought or intent being the driving force in all of this. The science of how that actually affects the molecules is unknown, except to the water molecules, of course. And it's really fascinating when you keep in mind that 90% of our bodies are water.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it? If thoughts can do that to water, imagine what our thoughts can do to us.
Hey, you epic being. Welcome. Thank you as always for being here. It's Andre Hodge, Infinite Potential Healing, Servant of Truth with you once more. I hope you're going well. And as always, like I said, thank you for being here. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey. As I always say, like our peak awareness time is very precious. So if you invest anything into me along your journey, I am very grateful because there is so much stuff out there and stuff. So I hope you find yourself going well. I hope you're expanding. I hope if you've invested and taken on any of my concepts and stuff, they've added to your awareness and you're seeing through a lot that's going on. I've been on a bit of a theme for a while that's been pretty hardcore, culminating in my influences part 7 last release, and that was a really big, profound one for me for putting together a big variable that's been missing relative to the AI and all the stuff out there. So I put a lot of clips together. I didn't do it as elaborate as I wanted to, but I feel that video was basically 2 parts. The first half was giving an update of a lot of influences and stuff, and influence is always there and stuff, right? And I don't want to create fear or anything, or I also think there's a bit of a perception that you guys want to protect me and not cause me harm and stuff like that, and I would just offer about that's you should drop that with me, okay? What I've really been trying to instill in people is, you know, if I interact with someone and I'm picking up something, I just want to let them know that this is going on, because we can be in, you know, horse blinkers and not know and be in it. And I've got that image relative to blind spots and stuff. Maybe I'll just show it quick, right? This one. So I've tried to create a dialogue of all this stuff that's going on that seems like no one else really gets it or wants to share about it, but to me it's, the mechanics are fascinating. And so what I've tried to do, in a lot of people just say this is going on sort of stuff, and then I've sort of retreated because I haven't known what's going on, and you know, we've trusted a lot of people and there's huge gaps in the awareness and information that we've been offered and stuff. So just getting back to the thinking that you might be an issue and causing me harm and stuff like that, what I've just tried to do is ideally offer, say if I'm perceiving something and there's a gap, you know, a lot of hacks might happen and there's blind spots and stuff, so I just try to offer a lot of information to people and stuff. And I think what I want to do is just let you guys know to really drop that weight. It might be a 8 or 9 out of 10 on the volume scale when it should be like a 2 or 3, and there is influences going on and stuff like that, and there's all these possibilities and angles, and it's been the unknown's been vast, right? But if you've got a variable in you relative to thinking that your role is protecting me, I would just drop that, right? We're all individuals, big people, we're adults and stuff, and like I said, I'm just trying to be instilling a dialogue with this stuff. And say if I say something I'm picking up, ideally for me, you might feel something in the back of your neck or something like that it might be attached to or messing with your mind and hacking in and stuff to create the blind spots and stuff like that. So I've just tried to expand the dialogue on all these things to help people observe themselves. So ideally, like the top one is having a full spectrum, like a vista of everything going on. The bottom one is like when you're low energy, maybe you're being hit, you've got traumas and all this sort of stuff, and maybe your hydration is down, right? So you don't have the cognitive function or the body senses because you're dehydrated and stuff like that. So I just want to offer that up front, don't feel that you're going to cause me harm. So say if you want to come through and you're thinking protecting me, it's like, that's a block, right? I welcome all the challenges and stuff like that. And when you're messed up and stuff, that's when you've got to be courageous and disarm yourself to allow someone in to help and stuff. And it can be a really amazing experience and stuff. And over my journey and getting into this hydration, cognitive function sort of thing, one of the big things I've done a lot is lymphatic massages and stuff with shamanic healing sort of thing, and relating the body to all the traumas and blocks and all that, and getting on a table with a shaman that can see through you and hitting pain points and the lymphatic system. You got nowhere to hide, right? You feel pain, and when you basically clear it, the body releases the pain and there's no issue sort of stuff, and the water can flow. So it's just really fascinating what goes on with the body. And from my perspective, offering this infinite potential part 7 relative to hydration, lymphatic system, water structure, and some tools and all that. It's all about having the level of water and the type of water and the hydration in our body to really function on a cognitive level at a very high level. I feel there's a massive level of dehydration going on in people, and we don't even, it's affecting people in a big way. So it's hindering people. And going back a few years, I think it was between 2011 and 2014, Cliff High offered one of the variables that he was picking up in his stuff was there was a deliberate effort to dehydrate people at 6%, right? So just think about, the types of water and all that sort of stuff. I don't want to get too complicated in those things. I mean, a lot of people have a lot of ideas, but there's definitely a variable that's not organic that wants us dehydrated to affect our cognitive function, I feel. So I want to offer a very potent sort of tool in this release of having many components that will allow you to really appreciate the level of hydration and the effect on the body and stuff, with some cool clips and some perspectives and all that sort of stuff, right? So just this video and this theme is something that we can all employ ourselves, if that makes sense. It's something we can investigate and try out and see and stuff, and just appreciate our body at a different level as well. So I'm just going to put this down. So if you've been across me for a while, I'm all about influences and stuff, and there is just so much going on, and those of you that have invested in my version 4 or 2 of the Sovereignty Declaration, sovereignty is so vital, right? But just the volume of stuff that's in there and the thoroughness that I've sort of offered, it's an ally to let you know just what is going on and how we're being affected and stuff. And my metaphor relative to that, or my contemplation relative to all these things, right, is if we were inferior, all that stuff wouldn't be needed. So potentially we're very superior to it all, right? So if we are superior, then how do we access that, right? So there's a lot of exotic things, and I deal with the GSF sort of things and interacting with amazing people, and we work out stuff and the high level pattern recognition and that. But I also feel it's very, very important that we get the fundamental basics right? Part of my thing was very early on was getting onto the body and nutrition, getting our body, our temple right? And so part of that is obviously nutrition, and I'm really big on that, but also hydration and stuff like that. So I think this theme might be really interesting to many of you. It's interesting, the light's a bit different, so if it comes across in the video, I'm doing my best. It's interesting. There's been a bit of gardening going on behind me, so this theme might be very interesting for you as well, right? Because it's like, I'll just show you the pattern recognition image quick. So this one is all about cognitive function that will be an ally to pattern recognition. So all the variables and data points and stuff like that. It's quite fascinating that I came up with this sort of theme to talk about, and I really want to invite. I've interacted with quite a few people, you know, as I do and stuff like that, and the water, hydration, water structure, what's in the water, like technologies and the whales and stuff like that. For a while now, as well as myself, right, I've been finding it hard to maintain hydration. I live in an area of the world that has very low humidity. This part of Australia, we only have like 5 to 10% of humidity, so the air is very dry. So hydration is a really big thing down here. You guys in the north, you get cold a lot, and it'd be hard to think about being in the heat so much, but there's things like heat stroke where you get over dehydrated and stuff like that, and it's just really interesting down here in Australia relative to that. So me being an Aussie and playing a lot of sport like basketball and cricket and tennis and those sort of things, we live in sports, and swimming as well, being in the water, living near beaches and stuff like that. So Aussies tend to be quite athletic and do a lot of sports and stuff, so hydration is a big thing down here, and it's really interesting. There's some tools that have been around for like 150 years down here, some saline sort of solutions and stuff like that. We had a form of Gatorade in the 1850s sort of thing, right? Because it is so demanding on the hydration level with the heat and the low humidity and stuff. But so for myself, it's just been something interesting has happened relative to my hydration, so I've been working on it quite a bit. There's things like body structure and the skeletal sort of lymphatic system, like I said, and going to chiropractors and stuff to adjust the neck to allow the lymphatics to flow better and stuff. But I'm just had this variable relative to water and hydration in the back of my mind and improving it, because I felt like I've been very dehydrated, and some of the influences about the satellite sort of broadcast frequencies and all the mobile phone sort of 5G sort of things, I think those things are charging the water in a different way. I'm still postulating all that, but ideally from my perspective, there's a way to get through it, and we are superior and all that sort of stuff. So I look for that, like there's always potentially going to be these variables out there, and how do we get above it and stuff. But the other cool thing is like interacting with a lot of people. So say a lot of these dots are interacting with people and clients, and then I find my video clips and stuff like that, like Influences Part 7 that I released in the last video. I included some pretty awesome clips of perspectives at different levels, and they all came quite synchronistic and stuff like that to me, to offer that, to put it together of what's going on with the AI, because I was working on it in the background, and but also appreciating the perspectives of others. And I really love sharing clips like that for people to contemplate different levels of the narrative and where people operate at and their unique variables and stuff relative to data and that. So this one's going to be quite similar again, but I would say you guys out there, you've actually planted many data point seeds with me to put all this together, because I was just wanting to sort of, as I said, my theme has been pretty focused and high level and intense for a while to get to that influence of Part 7, which I will expand on in the future, I feel. But I just also wanted to break up that intensity and offer something very potent that you can employ yourself, right? So I think like if we all sort of appreciate where we are with our hydration, are we really on it, or are we deficient? Do we even know? And I think so much is going on. The influences are scrambling people as well. It's very tough to have a reference of what our peak state is, you know. feel I'm very fortunate to do pranic healing, and I can do it on myself and stuff to clear out all the influences and chips and implants and blocks and stuff. I work with the acupuncture points and the meridians and all that sort of stuff to clear them out. If you understand the body, there's 600 points and stuff like that. But this video is a culmination of many ingredients, and I think it's going to be interesting for you guys, because it might be just like, this has been on my mind, like you're answering everything that I subconsciously was questioning and answering. So I think there'll be a lot of data in this will be very potent for you, and it'll be like the very, it'll be like, this is like a perfect release for many of you right at the right time, because I feel like if we be tough on our own hydration and stuff, we know water is important, but we don't actually know the mechanics of what to do or tools and stuff like that. And ideally, like, a lot of the solutions are very simple, right? We just need to know the context of what's going on. So I think this will hold a lot of really cool variables that a lot of people can add to their repertoire to really improve themselves, because I feel like the level of dehydration out there is outrageous, right? Like, very few people are actually hydrated to the level they need. And so to me, like I said about Cliff High, he offered that perspective 10 years ago at least, that there was a deliberate effort to dehydrate people at 6%, and that maybe it reduces cognitive function by 30%, right? So if you see people are struggling and the level of data, like pattern recognition, I'll just go to another image quick. So I've employed this image many times, and it's relative to the emotional state and the impact of, say, fear on perception and stuff, and then the life force level of being able to process it a little bit, right? So if your adrenals are really armed up and you're in fear, you're not able to discern correctly because everything is a threat and stuff. So you reduce what you process and stuff until you, say, heal or work stuff out, or, overcome things to feel comfortable again. But let's just say this is a metaphor of being dehydrated, right? So if your cognitive function is really reduced because you can't hydrate, you can't discern all the variables. Like the bottom one might be a metaphor of being hydrated, and you can process like 10,000 variables for everything at once without even knowing it subconsciously. But say if you're dehydrated, the second one might be the variable that you're doing, where you're very limited at what you can perceive. So if I go back to that first image about the gaps and the blind spots, right? If you're not able to process at a high level, then there's a very enormous potential for a reduction of the variables that you can process at any one time, which a lot slip through that you don't even know. And then it can also affect your emotional state and all this sort of stuff. So a lot of entities can get into the lymphatic system, and you can have a lot of messed up water and charged and all sorts of stuff, and affects your emotional state. And I just want to really invite, though, contemplate, if you're dehydrated, how much does it affect your perception mechanics, all right, relative to the variables and all that, and then being able to clear stuff and process energy and all that sort of stuff. So I would just invite that the level of hydration is a pretty low physical level that has a profound effect on the multi-D perception mechanics that you have, all right? So I'm just going to move on. So I'm just going to use the conscious Tetris sort of image as a metaphor here as well, right? To say hydration is a component in the body, like nutrition, eating food and getting rest and, potentially doing exercise and stuff. But say if your hydration is down, it might be a missing block in your body conscious Tetris, right? And so it's a very big component in, as I feel, the cognitive functions, the function of high level, that I feel one variable of, intuitive perception is our pattern recognition skills of being able to manage a lot of data variables all at once and stuff. So just imagine, I talk about conscious Tetris, about being able to flip variables and stuff or get rid of data that, like the red data that's invalid and stuff like that, to allow an accurate truth in that allows the next level of layers in your conscious Tetris, right? But just see this as the body mechanics. If if your hydration is down and your body isn't able to function at a optimum level, that affects your cognitive function, let alone your ability. Say if you're dehydrated, you get soft tissue injuries and stuff like that, right? So you're battling in your body, let alone to have the intuitive potential and stuff. And I just feel if you observe, you know, there's this perception that a lot of people are asleep and stuff like that. I'm very compassionate about humanity because I think everyone is battling just to survive in this energy harvesting world, right? Like money and inflation is a relationship to our energy, right? Money to me is is life force encapsulation technology, so to speak, right? So everyone is energy deficient, like running on fumes, like 10 or 20%. So that in their body, their life force is bankrupt, and they process at the level they can afford to process. And being into spirituality is like a, you know, it's a luxury in many respects, right? So just observe, like, once you go through all this with me, it's like you'll see how much dehydration is a factor out there, and it might be, knowing this might be the edge to help other people around you and stuff, and some simple tools and stuff like that, alright? So yeah, just focus on yourself and just ask yourself, how is your hydration at the moment? Do you even know? Do you even sense it? Do you feel you have a potential to improve and add to the repertoire of who you are with appreciating all this? Okay, I'm just going to move on. What I might do is show you some tools, alright? And some books and stuff like that. I might be showing, relative to hydration and stuff, constipation, a clip with Paul Chek a bit later, but this is one of his books, alright? It's a really cool book. He's the bald guy that I show now and again. I haven't showed him a lot recently, but if you explore my Conscious Explorer series, he was in there quite a bit. But I'm going to do a clip about constipation, I think, in this, because I feel like a lot of people are fasting, right? And it's a valid exploration, right? Because there's a lot of people have put on weight and stuff like that, and it's like their gut isn't processing and things like that. What I found is when I've been dehydrated, the gut processing is very hindered, right? And when you get your hydration right, the processing is very efficient. The elimination process works very well, right? And then it gets to the life force level in people. I feel like if people are very energetically deficient and the food is dead, like there's no life force in the food, it's processed and other things like that. I won't get into the food now, but if Paul Chek talks about dead food, if I move around a bit, it's because I've just had ants come right where my foot is. He talks about dead food in a Dirt Facts lecture that I like to put, alright? But my attitude is, if our hydration and our energy is there, like our spleen is clear relative to pranic healing and that, then our ability to process our gut and stuff, no matter what there, is very efficient. So the need to fast is reduced, right? I think the appreciation of fasting is really valid, right? But I think it's a byproduct of reacting to a consequence of, say, dehydration, okay? So I just want to invite that. Maybe I'll show you the Paul Chek clip here relative to constipation, all right?
So as you can see with the title, it's Nutrition, the Dirt Facts, getting right down to the absolute basics. What do we have to do to make everything else work? That's what I want to talk about today. So our learning objectives in this 90 minutes that will go by very fast, and you will probably think that I'm speaking at about 750 words a minute, but I doubt I can outperform Robert Rakowski. I will try. We want to look at what is called the wheel of life and recognize the vital relationship between soil health and nutrition. So soil, in other words, the nutrition in the soil, and the health of plants, animals, and man. We want to learn to feed people correctly and avoid unnecessary industry-driven hype or the application of this for that nutritional supplemental approaches. I'm not saying that I don't think there's a place for that, but I'm saying what you'll see if you look around is that the nutritional industry is now pretty much owned by the drug industry, and the whole nutritional concept is now just, by prescription. If your butt itches, I got a pill for you. If your hair's falling out, I got a pill for you. It's not really looking at causes. It's just this for that, which is exactly how the drug system works, how allopathic medicine works. We want to see natural eating and organic food or nutrition as an essential element in high-performance programming, and it may actually be essential for the survival of man as a race, as I will show you. I know that's a pretty heavy-duty statement, but I have facts and things to back it up, so hang around. So the typical client that I see, a CHEK client, which is Corrective Holistic Exercise Kinesiology, that's my last name, but that's the acronym I use for my institute. Among many other things, I use a very comprehensive questionnaire that takes people usually 3 to 4 hours to fill out, and it's weighted, and it indicates to me which of their organ systems and hormonal systems and even psychological components are under stress. There's 29 systems that I look at here, and based on that and many other forms of analysis, whether it be blood tests, hormonal tests, salivary tests, cortisol rhythm tests, whatever I feel is necessary, I have to make decisions about how I'm going to address my client. I do not ever design exercise programs without a complete analysis of the emotional, mental, spiritual, and nutritional components. My first visit usually takes 10 to 16 hours with a client. That's spread typically over a few days. That's the only way I'll see people, because after 22 years of hard work, I can tell you, for me, in my opinion, that's the only way I can get the results that I want. And part of it has to do with the fact that the people that come to see me have pretty serious problems, and they've tried most conventional approaches. So here's the facts. Here's the diet facts. This is all you need to know. Don't feed lions leaves, and don't feed giraffes meat. That's it. Right? How many times have you seen headlines on the news of lions who are straight meat eaters getting heart attacks? Well, let me tell you something. It's interesting. The first heart attack in the United States of America occurred in 1921. And all of a sudden, we're supposed to not eat red meat because it's going to clog your arteries. Well, how the hell did we survive at least 2.8 million years since we branched off from our chimpanzee ancestors living on red meat? How come all of a sudden it's bad for us? If it's so damn bad, if saturated fat's so bad, why is it the only fat that your cells manufacture? Why do you manufacture cholesterol if it's so bad for you? I'll tell you, it's not red meat is bad. It's shit, commercially farmed meat that's fed poisonous crap and pumped full of drugs. That's what the problem is. Don't be blaming it on the animals. They're here in service to you and to me. It's not the animals. It's not the red meat, because those lions don't have any problem. Those giraffes, they don't have any problem. They eat what they're supposed to eat. They're just fine. They poop fine. They feel fine. They don't need any sexual performance drugs either. Okay? So it's a real simple formula here. If you're eating wrong and you're eating garbage food, you're going to screw up your Krebs cycle. You will have an energy crisis. Whenever you go into an energy crisis, immediately your body has to decide, okay, who do I short on energy today? I'm out of energy. Right? It takes between 55 and 75% of the calories you eat just to run your food from mouth to anus. Most people don't realize that. Do your homework. Study John Berardi's articles. It's right in there. He tells you the facts. 55 to 70 or even 75% of your calories are used just to run the system, just to degulate, digest, metabolize, assimilate, and eliminate. Costs you 55 to 70% of the calories delivered. But if you're burning up more nutrition to run the factory than you're getting in your food, you're going bankrupt. You're going nutritionally bankrupt. That's what we have today. Bankruptcy. Health bankruptcy. Aaron Fried Pfeiffer said all the way back in 1957, he said most people die by the age of 35 and their corpses just walk around for another 35 years. Okay? So when you go into an energy crisis, your body has some serious decisions to make. Who is it? I'm going to ask you, let's pretend you all have an energy crisis because you're not eating right and you're not going to bed on time, you're not following the basic principles you need to follow. So I'm going to ask you, when you have to start shorting one of these biological systems for energy, which one's it going to be? Your nervous system Your hormonal system, your immune system, your thermoregulatory system, your reproductive system, your circulatory system, your digestive system, or your eliminative system. Hey, which one do you want to short? Who do you put on reserve? Well, here's a stat for you. 90 to 95% of North Americans are constipated. We sell in the United States of America $1.69 million worth of laxatives every day. There are so many constipated people going to emergency rooms that they had to change the criteria for giving out laxatives. It used to be if you hadn't pooped at least once in a day, they would give you a laxative. Now they made it once every 2 days because they were giving out so many laxatives to people that had no insurance. It was making the medical system spend tons of money on laxatives, right? So I've just given you factual proof that on average Americans are quite full of shit. Okay? Okay, so look, your body has to harvest the energy somewhere. It might also interest you to know that about 90% of Americans have been shown through research to have a parasite infection right now. About 85 to 90% of Americans have a dysbiosis. Instead of having 85% friendly, they've got 85% unfriendly bacteria in their intestinal tracts, which is literally poisoning their body and throwing their complete biochemistry off and sending them chasing after pills and this patch and that patch. It's a waste of time. You'll spend your money forever. The only reason these things make you feel a little better is because any energy input into the system gives you a sense of feeling better. But energy inputs aren't correction. I can prove that to you. Show me where your car is. I'll walk outside, hit it with a sledgehammer. That would be an energy input, wouldn't it? Right? And it'll feel different, but it won't be better. Right? And I can prove this to you easily. Any of you in this room that has pain in your back or your neck, take a 1/4 of an inch heel lift or even an 1/8 of an inch heel lift, stick it in any shoe, I don't give a damn. That will change your proprioceptive systems and alter the energy systems in your body enough that you will have pain relief probably from anywhere from a day to a week. If you just keep switching the heel lift back and forth, you'll keep tricking the proprioceptive system. I'm just showing you that an energy input doesn't mean you're doing anything for anybody. It just means you're tricking the system. Why play games? Let's get to the basics here. Okay? So we cannot afford, if you've got problems with your nervous system, hormonal system, or any of these biological systems, it means you're probably making basic mistakes and you need to get your priorities right. So you might want to say, well, when you don't eat right, what am I going to look like? I'll show you. Right? Remember, your body always has a need for nutrition and it sends you after nutrition. So if you eat food and there's no nutrition in it, your brain says, keep eating, keep eating. I'm short on omega-3 fatty acids. Keep eating. I'm short on B12. Keep eating. I'm short, and you just keep eating. So what do? People are literally starving to death, and this is what they look like. Oh, that's toaster. I won't get into that, but eating bread is a bad idea. Okay. Because what happens down here is a big question mark. Simply, about 55 to 60% of white-skinned people are gluten intolerant. As soon as you eat gluten, it inflames your intestinal tract, wipes out your microvilli. You can't digest dairy anymore, so you keep stressing your immune system, and then you have to divert all your energy into your immune system, and anytime you inflame the gut, you elevate your cortisol levels. That elevates your stress levels, so now you throw your blood sugar all over the place. Should I keep going? You're screwed, right? All in a toaster.
Welcome back. I hope you like that. I only wanted to put a little one in, but I was going to do it a bit later, but seeing I've got this book up, it's a bit worth it now, right? I just wanted to drop that as a variable relative to pattern recognition and mechanics of the body, right? And think differently. Okay. Yeah, he's a really cool teacher out there. I would highly recommend going exploring with him. He's a very high-level personal trainer, and he's a bit older now. That video is from 2010, I think, so it's crazy. Time is gone, but it's very valid information. That Dirt Facts lecture is outstanding, and I'll be using it in the future more. Right? I'm all about tools and resources, and this is a very cool book that's out there. We don't get access to books much anymore and stuff like that, but if you went into spiritual shops and stuff, you probably found this book and stuff. It's pretty big, but it's a really epic resource. It's got all the acupuncture points and meridians and energy fields and all sorts of stuff, right? So I'm starting to get some rain here, so I might try and be efficient in this release, but I might just open a page so you can see it, alright? So this is just a page of this book, alright? This is like reflexology and stuff like that. So that's the sort of level of information in the book. It's really profound, right? Imagine a couple hundred pages like that, right? So it's a really worthy book of getting, okay? I'm talking about lymphatic system and tools and stuff like that. I'll show you one tool that I've shown before, alright? It's like a massage ball. It's really hard, alright? It's spiky. And I've shown this in the past, alright? So if you understand the lymphatic system, I might have the images of the lymphatic next to me and stuff. But if you imagine, I sit at my desk and do videos and sit there a lot and have a lot of time in my desk and stuff like that. So I'm sitting down a lot. So I'll have this under my feet and massaging it, even when sessions and stuff, when I'm talking to people. It's really cool because that image before, there's some lymphatic spots like back of the foot arch and between the big toe and that area of the foot that has a few lymphatic points, and you can really break it up. So having one like this is really cool. All right, these are really cheap. I got this for $15, you know, and you can do it on your face, your neck, and the lymphatics. If you understand where the lymphatics are and all that, you can use that, all right, as a tool. Do the back of your neck and head and reflexology and all that sort of stuff, all right. So that's a really cool tool. I've shown that before, but I thought I'd just bring it here again. If the idea of a spiky ball on your feet doesn't sound too enticing, right, you can use tennis balls. And this is a hockey ball as well. I find that tennis balls aren't enough, right? They buckle and stuff, and then they get soft and stuff. Having something really hard is a lot better, right? So this is a hockey ball, right? You can get balls like this, and they're pretty cheap as well. You can get them from sports stores and stuff like that. They're really cool to have. Okay. If you want to take it to the next level, you can get massage guns, right? This is a massage gun. I'm not going to turn it on because it's going to be a bit noisy, but they go up really high. This goes up to a setting of 30, and they last for a long time and stuff. They have all different types of pointers and stuff like that. So this is really cool. Like if you understand the lymphatic system through the body, you can do like the lymphs on the face and the neck and behind the head and the outside of the armpits and stuff like that, and the feet as well. A big thing on the lymphatic system is the groin points, right? So if you've ever done a lymphatic massage, it goes up sort of the inside of the feet and the calves and inside of the thighs and stuff up to the groin points. And it goes down the middle of the chest and stuff. So the map of the lymphatic system is really interesting, right? Understanding the lymphatic system. I think it's in that book, but you can also get other books out there. It's well worth knowing about your body, right? But this is just a cool ally to have, you know. It's always cool to have a whole repertoire of tools and stuff like that, okay? So this might be something that you can just use to help break something up, and you can do a lot of your lymphs on your face and your neck and stuff, and break up the neck and other areas, and do your hands as well and stuff like that. It depends what you're up for, but these are tools out there that you can buy, that you can just have. So like I said about appreciating dehydration and stuff like that, it's just the idea of having a full spectrum of all these concepts that you can employ when you need them, and just step outside yourself and stuff like that, right? But you can get massage guns, but I highly recommend doing body work and doing chiropractic work, right? One of the biggest allies I've had is doing a lot of massage work and stuff, and going to people that have that skill set. So it might be a skill that you want to learn as well, all right? But yeah, I'm just going to move on. So one of the things with hydration as well is appreciating dehydration. You can actually use it as a tool, and I've always appreciated that. Like there's substances out there that are diuretic. So coffee and tea with caffeine, they're actually a diuretic that actually eliminate water from your body and stuff. And if I go back to Richard Alan Miller, and I've got a really cool clip that I'm going to offer. So in this, I was planning to offer a lot of clips, and at the start I'm probably going to offer a Dr. Emoto with a water structure sort of intent sort of clip. I've got a really decent part of an interview with Richard Alan Miller. If you understand him, I'm just getting bitten by ants here. Sorry about that. I'm going to be a wriggle pot, but if you understand, a couple videos ago I offered something really cool relative to what I found about Richard Alan Miller, where I was in a round table with him. He's always been a bit of a hero of mine. He was Fox Mulder and set up the Navy SEALs and things like that. He's very profound. And with that, I was looking for a particular interview where he talks about what they did with genetically engineering wheat to actually put a parasite in it. So in my sovereignty declaration, one of the big things I've done recently in version 4.2 is not only do a big thing about AI, but do a big thing about food, right? So it's very profound. I really invite you to go in and declare sovereignty with all the shit that's done to food, right? But he offered back in 2013 about what they'd done to wheat and put a parasite in it that when you have a cat, it activates, sort of thing. I'm not going to include that clip here. I found it, but I was going off hunting his stuff around that era that I did that roundtable, which was based on that release, and I found it was with that Mad Painter guy that I was interacting with, so I appreciated him to bring it out. But going through some of his other interviews, I came across this one that was around that December that we had that interaction, where he actually had a really cool interview where he talked about water for 10 or 15 minutes. He talked about witches and how they were all set up and burnt and stuff, and some of the data that someone he found had relative to how the Catholic Church knew about what was going on with the witches and arrogant, like fermented wheat. I might have the linguistics wrong, but it basically creates LSD in wheat, and that's where a lot of the witches were burnt because they were having trips and stuff like that, right? But he's all about being a magician and a physicist and consciousness and all that sort of stuff. So I've got a really cool clip that I'm going to play probably at the last clip with him relative to water, and some really rich information that maybe some of you know, but it's just not been in one point, but it will be very rich to add to this whole what I'm offering here. So I'll leave that to a little bit later. But I'm also going to offer a clip of a lady by the name of Barbara O'Neill, and many of you probably know about her, but one of the big things is Celtic sea salt, and I actually took some videos relative to salt, and at my market yesterday, because I get a lot of salt, and I appreciate Celtic sea salt from her, which I'll offer a pretty cool clip in a sec, right? But relative to dehydration, and getting back to what I was saying about the weather here, we've always had really low humidity, so being aware of hydration has always been a key, all right? And I think, you know, you get conditioned in the environment you're in, so we're able to deal with water a lot, but the appreciation of it has gone back a long way, and I've appreciated going back to the elders, like past generations, of what they were eating and stuff. And I think one of the big things of this last 5 or 6 years, with all the craziness with the stuff going into the bodies and stuff, is sorry, I'm being bitten by ants here. So one of the appreciations is just the simple things like good food and stuff like that. How it's not that we were unappreciative of it, but with the circumstances that have gone on over this last 6 years now, it's more about appreciating the basics and how we work in place, and how we can improve and be very efficient with a lot less and stuff. And foods and nutrition and stuff is, you know, a lot of people have been struggling with that sort of stuff around the world, like the costs of food and living has gone up really exponentially and stuff. So I just appreciate going back to the previous generations of the wisdom that they had, you know, like being young, and you think the elders don't know anything and stuff, but then you appreciate, I think we've learned to appreciate the simple things, right? So so past generations in Australia, relative to this low humidity, there's a couple of really cool tools, right? So I mean in the 90s, I grew up with basketball, Michael Jordan, and Gatorade was a big thing. Like having Gatorade was, you know, a novelty sort of thing. It was supported by him, so you wanted to be like Mike, right? So, but in Australia, like growing up in the era I grew up, the elders, you know, they grew up from the Depression and stuff like that. So there's a lot of really home remedy sort of stuff that they just knew how to get by and stuff. So I'm just going to show you something here that's in Australia, okay? You can get these cans of like a salt solution. It's a saline solution. This is one I love, right? And it's like a hydration tool. It's a bit like sherbet, all right? And you put it in water, it's delicious, like just eating on its own. You imagine what it's like as a kid, right? But you put it in water, it turns the water into like lemonade. But it's like a real hydration sort of boost, all right? There's another one called Salvital, which I think the recipe of it is different. It's got magnesium. I didn't check before the show, but when you listen to the salt clip with Barbara O'Neill that I'm going to show in a little bit, all right, she talks about all these sort of ingredients and the variables and stuff, all right, relative to potassium, sodium, and magnesium and all that sort of stuff, right? So this is like 150 years old, I think. Salvital definitely is. It was 1850s because back then they were just struggling with hydration and stuff like that. They needed tools like that because there was no air conditioning and food preservation and all that sort of stuff, right? So in Australia, there's this is pretty cool for helping with hydration, all right? So if you understand electrolytes, it's having sugar is an ally, right? Just water isn't enough. So this can help with the real hydration when you're in Australia. You get it in most supermarkets and stuff. If I send my crystals out to people, I usually send a can and stuff like that so that they can have it and know what's going on down here, but it's a bit hard to get, right, outside of Australia. But this is a sort of tool that they've had and they've been around for generations sort of thing, and they get missed, and it's worth trying, just seeing how it goes, right? Try and put it in your body and see what your cognitive function does relative to it, right? I haven't shown this for a while. This is iodine, right? Lugol solution. This is one we can get in Australia, right? But one of the cool things I learnt about diuretics like coffee and hydration and stuff is iodine chelates a lot of the heavy metals and toxins from the cellular level. It's key to elimination and restoring the endocrine system and stuff. I've got an interview on my channel, BitChute. It got taken down off YouTube and stuff, so I'll just be a bit respectful of what I'm going to say. But so what I would do is I would use this, right? I would put it in my body, then I would use coffee to dehydrate to kick off the elimination process at a higher level, right? And then I would rehydrate. So there was a triangle sort of thing. So I'd use this for elimination, I'd dehydrate to kick all the water out, and then I'd rehydrate with the saline sort of stuff and salt and that, right? So that's a cool way to employ Lugols and stuff if you get it out there. I won't say too much about it. It's on BitChute, my interview relative to that, and go have a listen, alright? It's a really cool tool to have. And if you appreciate the endocrine system and the lymphatics and stuff, it's all an ally, alright? One of the other things I do relative to hydration and stuff is saunaing. I've got this really cool clip. It's a bit rough, alright? But it might be worth just putting it in there. So it's only a short clip. It doesn't really come from YouTube and that. It's just like one of these Instagram sort of things. But it's a really cool doctor, alright? And appreciating saunaing, how you can employ it, right? I do it to eliminate water and stuff and then refresh, because what can happen with lymphatic massage and stuff, that if the body's out of alignment and stuff, or you've got blocks or entities and stuff, then the water can get trapped, alright? And if you're not flushing out the right way, which the salt with Barbara O'Neill will be really cool, because you might feel like you're just drinking a lot, but it just goes straight through you and stuff, and it's a sign that your body might be misaligned, and you might need an adjustment or body work and energy healing and clearing the blocks out. I just work from the multi-D level at clearing all the stuff out, alright? But saunaing is one tool that you can employ to actually eliminate water to help reflush your system and stuff. So I might just show this clip. It might just be a bit rough, but it's very cool because it's interesting wisdom from another teacher out there, right?
Don't drink water when you're in the sauna. I'm Dr. Tanya Elliott, board-certified internal medicine specialist and allergist. If you want to experience the real benefits of a sauna, you actually need a slight level of dehydration. This stimulates the action of something called EPO, or erythropoietin. That stimulates the production of red blood cells, which ultimately increases your blood plasma volume. What does that mean? Increased blood flow and stability in your heart, and increased blood flow to the muscles, improving your performance. Here's a sauna protocol that I really like from Dr. Andrew Huberman and Dr. Stacy Sims. After a workout, drink 8 to 16 ounces of water, a little bit of salt or electrolyte in it. Hop in the sauna. Remember, no metal, no jewelry, and no cell phone. Sit in the sauna for up to 30 minutes. When you're in the sauna, it's okay to be a little bit thirsty. When you get out, you want to rehydrate, but slowly.
So interesting, hey? But it goes again that a lot of people don't know how dehydrated they are. A lot of people are just running on auto and they don't even know, right? And you got to watch saunaing, because most people, if they're already dehydrated, they can cause issues and stuff like that. But it's just interesting knowledge of how to operate in a sauna, all right? One of the cool clips that I came across recently, and I've come across Barbara O'Neill for a while, and this is related to salt, all right? So I might show you next to me the video that I took in my market yesterday of like a health food shop that has lots of salts there, all right? And one of the things I carry around with me all the time, based on what I learnt with Barbara O'Neill, is like a little container with Celtic sea salt. Like, I carry it around, right? And you'll appreciate the clips that I show and why, right? And how it might be one of the best investments you make, right? So you can get these little containers around the place and just store it in there. Celtic sea salt is quite expensive compared to other salts, but I would offer, based on this information that is in here, it's quite the investment, right? So what I might do is show the Barbara O'Neill clip up front, okay? It's about 7 minutes. It's part of a awesome lecture that's out there. But if you're across Telegram and stuff and some of the cool channels out there, there's some in particular that show a lot of clips of Barbara O'Neill. And one of my allies out there, she's been onto Celtic sea salt for a while and stuff like that. She's been a master of the body in many respects and an awesome ally out there. Shout out to you, right? But I'm not going to say the name because I just protect them. But then, you know, data points and pattern recognition, Barbara O'Neill, the clips relative to nutrition and what she appreciates is very grounded and stuff and very complementary to this. But if you appreciate the low level, like the physical level of the body and stuff, it helps be a platform for the multi-D sort of stuff. So she's very cool. She's from Tasmania, Australia and stuff, and she's got a big following worldwide. But this sort of clip I saw, I don't know, a year or two ago on Telegram and stuff, just scrolling and going through stuff and that. And then it was just, again, quite synchronistically, the whole lecture came, which is really profound, but I'm only going to show a bit of a clip. But to me, it will be a really awesome ally relative to the appreciated Celtic sea salt, right? And then it will be, like I said, I think a lot of people have an appreciation of dehydration and stuff, and the instinct is to drink a lot of water, but then you might feel like the water's not being absorbed into the body, and that's where appreciating the lymphatic system and how you might be blocked and all that sort of stuff. And like I said, the massaging and the tools and breaking things up, and yoga is another awesome ally as well. If you do yoga, obviously you probably know this, many of the movements are all about benefiting the lymphatic system and the lymphatic flow and stuff, right? And I don't want to get into that now, but moving the body and exercising and all that is also an ally, and stretching, but going to things like chiropractic and massage, and they're parts of their body maintenance sort of thing that everyone should sort of contemplate. But and even CST, like craniosacral therapy and that, all right? But this Barbara O'Neill clip is going to be profound if you've never come across her, right? So I'll leave it with you now for a few minutes and see what you get, all right? Enjoy.
Water, the second most vital element needed for life. So the number one vital element needed for life is oxygen. And that's not a surprise, is it? The second most vital element needed for life is water. You can go 3 minutes without oxygen. You can go a couple of weeks without water. I always thought it was 3 days without water until I read a book called The Long Walk about some people who were escaping the Siberian work camp, and they were in the desert and they went nearly 2 weeks without water. Wow. Water is the second most vital element needed for life. In fact, where there's no water, you don't usually get people living, do you? I always say to people, how much water do you drink? And these are some of the answers. I don't like water. If I drink water, my feet swell. If I drink water, I'm going to the bathroom all day. Those last two answers tell me that the water's not getting inside the cell. So how do we get the water inside the cell? We have to go to the third most vital element needed for life, and that is sodium. The fourth most vital element needed for life is potassium. So let's go back to sodium. In nature, we find the highest amount of sodium in seawater. And seawater contains 92 minerals. Of those 92 minerals, 30%, approximately 30% is sodium. And of those 92 minerals, approximately 50% is chloride. Now, because sodium chloride take up the most amount, they're the first crystals formed when the water is evaporated. So what man does is he scoops up the first crystals formed, he bleaches them white, puts aluminium with it so that it runs freely, and there's your table salt. Table salt is a dangerous salt because we now have two very harsh minerals that if you were to inject both of those into the blood, you would die. There's two harsh minerals and they need all the other 90 to soften them and balance them. The highest concentration of mineral inside the cell is potassium. The highest concentration outside the cell is sodium. And in this bilayered membrane that is around every cell, there are sodium-potassium pumps. And these sodium-potassium pumps are ever going like this, maintaining the balance between potassium and sodium. But when someone's not eating enough fruits and vegetables, and that's where you get most of your potassium, and they're putting table salt on everything far too much, what happens now is sodium levels rise and potassium levels drop. There is a small amount of sodium in the cell, but when this happens, you see osmosis and diffusion happens when the highest concentration merges into the lowest. So now sodium levels inside the cell are rising, which they should not, and the cell swells. What's that called? High blood pressure. The doctor is right. Table salt will contribute to high blood pressure. There's a French doctor named Dr. Lelangre, and he's written a whole book on salt. He said, when people come to me with high blood pressure, I put them on Celtic salt. Why does he put them on Celtic salt? Because Celtic salt contains 82 minerals. It's a hand-harvested sea salt. So the minerals are in the Celtic salt in their balanced form. What about Himalayan salt? In many places, Himalayan salt is a lot easier to get. There's about 75 minerals. So it's pretty good. But I prefer the Celtic salt. And one reason is that the Celtic salt has 3 magnesiums. It contains magnesium chloride, and magnesium bromide and magnesium sulfate. Magnesium is a water-hungry molecule, and this explains why the Celtic salt is such a moist salt, especially when we've had a lot of rain, because those three magnesiums absorb the moisture. And because magnesium is a water-hungry molecule, it can be used to help the water get into the cell. So when you take a crystal of Celtic salt, put it on your tongue, and some say, how big's a crystal? Well, if you've got high blood pressure, start small, about the size of a sesame seed. I don't have high blood pressure, so I might have about 3 times little sesame seeds. Put it on your tongue, your mucous membranes start absorbing the minerals, the magnesium is taken to the cell membrane, and you drink your water, and that magnesium pulls that water inside the cell. It's the quickest way to hydrate a body. The only time excess water drinking can be dangerous is if people drink too much at once and don't have the minerals that are in the Celtic salt to pull that water inside the cell. I've had people complain to me, they say, I'm drinking more water now and now I'm going to the bathroom all day. So I say, are you having the salt? Have a little crystal before every glass of water. And ideally we should be having approximately 8 glasses of water a day. And then I say to them, and don't drink a whole glass at once. I think I mentioned earlier, I drink half a glass as soon as I get up. I go to the bathroom, I drink another half glass. Then I get dressed and have another half glass. But when I start every glass, I have that little bit of salt. So you spread the water over the day. And many people have said to me, thank you so much, that has made a big difference. See, huge water in, it's not long before huge water has to come out. It's like watering a plant. And look how God sends the rain, little by little by little. And when there's a tornado, when there's a torrential downpour, that's when the soil gets washed away and flooding can happen. So remember that with your body. Take it little by little by little by little. It is the best way to take it.
Welcome back. I hope you got a lot from it, all right? Really potent ally, right? Appreciating of our body mechanics, that stuff should be taught in school, right? Like, why do we not know it, all right? So like I said at the start, we have to appreciate that a lot out there doesn't want us operating at our optimum level, right? That's where it's like, a lot of people don't know what intuitive abilities are and stuff and think they're exotic. To me, it's a big one is about the pattern recognition and seeing through all the BS, all right, and busting and if we're functioning at our optimum level, and these days we've accepted the level of cognitive function that most people have and don't really understand why that is the case, but the appreciation of the basics like this in the body, it complements the levels that people are at, right? So to me, if people appreciate hydration and these sort of things relative to their body and that, I feel like the potentials in everyone can be massively increased, all right, with some basic appreciation of these sort of things, all right? So that's why I'm saying, like, there's a massive misinterpretation of the level of dehydration out there, okay? And so, yeah, it's just an appreciation of the simple basics, right? It doesn't have to be exotic. If we just do the basics like this, what's the outcome for us individually and stuff? So to me, let's say if we get hydrated and it works like that, then the body will function and absorb the water and flush out the lymphatic system, and then might get rid of entities or blocks and stuff like that. And then if your body is hydrated and stuff, then your skin might be a lot better, and then like the soft tissue injuries like torn calves and things like that, they won't be as much a problem, and then you'll be able to do more physical work and move the body and stuff, and then there's a perpetual of everything benefits, and then potentially all the influences and stuff, right? Like the energy hygiene issues, they're not going to be as much of an issue, all right? If I just get the awareness journey and show you. Like this is the old one I use with all the energy hygiene issues and all the targeting and all that sort of stuff. But so if you're being dehydrated and then you're vulnerable to influence and your body doesn't have the defensive mechanism to flush things out, so then you're hit by things, then you're vulnerable to this. But how do you think hydration will be an ally to the navigation of all this? You know, if your body flushes out and the entities sort of energy hygiene issues aren't as bad because your body has the mechanics to deal with it a bit better, then you can get through to the higher level. And ultimately, I just think hydration and this component could be like a 2 to 5% benefit to whatever we're trying to do, right? And being deficient, it might be like causing, 20% cognitive and body functions that make us just vulnerable to this spiritual no man's land that I talk about. Right? So, if you've been around me and the people I've dealt with, I'll just show you a salt pack. I get people to make up salt packs like this. This is a couple cups of Epsom salt. And there's Himalayan salt in this as well. Epsom salt is really good for bars. It's got magnesium in it and stuff. You put these behind your head and your tailbone or different areas of your body. You can put it over your face and lie down, over your eyes, over your base, over your heart and stuff like that, right? So when you can make them up for your family members and when they sit and watch TV and stuff. So these can be an ally to clear out blocks, particularly if you appreciate what I'm about and my healing. The parasympathetic system is pretty gnarly, and you put them behind the head and the neck and the tailbone and stuff, and ideally they're an ally to clear out. So, but one thing I appreciate about salt is, before refrigeration, it was a bit of a mystical thing. Like it would help preserve meat. There's always those stories of putting meat in salt to allow it to last a long time on ships when they went sailing and stuff around the world, right, to preserve food. So to me, there's just these mystical qualities with salt, and the right salt is key. So ideally that Barbara O'Neill clip is a very potent one to make you want to explore her more, right? So I'm not sure how long this is. I'm a bit all over the place. I had a bit of a plan, but I just went with it and stuff. So what I'm going to do is get into offering a really cool Richard Alamella clip that I alluded to at the start. Right now I'm not sure how long it is. I think the main bit is about 15 minutes or so, maybe a bit more. But he has a really cool section in this interview about magic and physics and consciousness and what's been going on relative to witches and stuff. So he talks about how witches in the 1500s were just like hermits, and some really cool wisdoms that he had that he imparted with Navy SEALs, a bit like one thing's relative to spiderwebs about them cauterizing wounds and stuff, and that's what they used in Navy SEALs, to cauterize wounds as a warrior and stuff. But the witch burnings and stuff like that, there's a cool section in this interview that I might include, I'm not sure, depending how long it is, but ultimately it gets into his sort of consciousness work. And the interviewer asks about pathways and his book Power Tools. If you went back and you listened to the interview I did, or the Revolution Roundtable with him that he came on, I included some of his books and some other books with that relative to water and that. But this interview is really profound, where he gets into water for about 10 or 15 minutes, and so much information in it that's really, I feel, will be an ally to a lot of you. Like, this is the sort of stuff that us OG keyboard ninjas used to go into and stuff, and there's so many teachers out there and that. And he mentions people like Dr. Emoto from Japan and the water structure of intent and stuff like that. And he mentions a guy called Jerry Pollack about the fourth phase of water and stuff. I don't think I'll include Jerry Pollack clips. I know at the start I was brewing to put a short clip around the structure of water and the intent relative to Dr. Emoto. I might put an extra clip in. It just depends how long this is, or I might just hold off another time and get into that, because I've got this really cool Victor Schauberger water cavitation and the structure of water at a very high level. Right? Victor Schauberger, he's a guy out there. You can have a look for a lecture or this lecture this guy did that's pretty profound from 20 years ago. But one of the cool things that Richard talks about in this is microwaving water and the pH levels that are ideal for the body, and some tools relative to getting the water at the right level you need and stuff. And he talks about Dr. Emoto and the intent, but he also talks about waterfalls and how to make structured waters by flowing water and stuff like that. So it's really cool. And one of the cool things that Richard taught me was about our inner garden. All right. So one of the concepts I've always had is, yeah, there's all this craziness going on in the world and bad stuff and that, and it's not ideal. And it goes back to the Club of Rome and the population sort of stuff, unfortunately. But there is all that stuff out there. Water may not be ideal and stuff like that, but my attitude was appreciating that inner garden concept. It was like, yes, that's how the world is, but we can be, there's tools and stuff out there, like I showed you some of the nutrition stuff a bit before, like the iodine, that it goes through and clears out all heavy metals from the cellular level, like it's key to elimination, and the thyroid in the endocrine system, which are the chakras and stuff like that. So for me, it was about, yes, we might be here, we might be dehydrated and malnourished. The challenges of the world might be at this level and that, but we can raise our bar beyond that, like the principles of existence and stuff like that. So just including many little components like this relative to hydration and maybe the salt and body work, and using tools like I've sort of shared here, and then doing the nutrition in our inner garden, like our body, and providing our amazing body tech what it needs, we can be superior to it all, right? And then it gets into high cognitive function and then the intuitive stuff. And you know, I highly recommend doing energy healing and things like that. There, to me, it's mandatory in this world, just because the mainstream narrative doesn't talk about this stuff. It's sort of a setup for failure for me, all right? So yeah, he was a profound teacher for me about our inner garden and making sure our inner body, because it was like, to me, a lot of people create this fortress of solitude, right, and have water filters and all that sort of stuff, but you go outside your fortress and the world is how it is. You're not set up to deal with it anywhere. And as like to me, you can't create that bubble sort of contort the world to fit where you are. You have to adapt to how the world is and be ideally superior to it. So if you do the inner sort of physical stuff, like I say, the inner garden mastery, then no matter where you are, no matter what's going on, you can endure it and thrive and stuff, right? So what I'm going to do is show you this awesome Richard Alan Miller clip, right, that I think you'll get a lot from. It's very rich in the wisdom he has with water and all that sort of stuff, right? And I'll see you on the other side, all right? Enjoy.
Evening and welcome. This is Mike Harris on rinseradio.com, and today is Wednesday, December 4th, 2013. And as promised, my guest this evening is Dr. Richard Alan Miller. Richard, how are you?
Afternoon. Sorry about that. I'm used to getting up so early. How you doing?
Hey, anyway, I wanted to have you on the air, and you gave me a choice of several topics to talk about. And so I done a little poll of talking to a very dear associate of mine. Let's just call her that. She's an associate. She's very special, someone who I really care about. She knows who she is. Anyway, the topic that was wanted to be discussed is about magic, because that seems to be fascinating. And rather than Isan or Fukushima or something, because I just asked a quick question. What do you think we should talk about? And that's the reply I got, was wanted to talk about magic.
You know, before I'm a physicist, before I'm even an agriculturalist, I'm a magician. I mean, that is my true
path. I'm actually path working. I'm aware. I'm following ritual situations where I'm trying to train my mind and body. All of my writings as a Navy SEAL are toward that end, trying to become paranormal, being able to do more than is generally expected, like controlling my heart rate or my breathing so that my perception of time changes. And magic has always been defined as the art of changing consciousness at will. That's like changing the movie, to be able to do that. Now, in the lower ends of that, we have legerdemain, sleight of hand. As you move into the higher realms, like indigenous people, you have a sense of something more going on, and that you flow with the movement and don't really need to know how it works. A woman, for example, that's driving an automobile does not think about an internal engine combustion and how the different parts of the engine are causing the car to move forward. She simply knows that if she puts a key in the slot and performs a series of basic rituals, turning this way, turning the handbrake off, that kind of thing, she has expectations of what's going to happen next. That, anthropologically, is called magical thinking. And so all of us do it, and is possibly why magic was reserved for the ultra-elite of Europe for centuries. It was not hocus pocus. It was a way of disciplining the mind and body. And all of your scholars throughout history were part of various kinds of lodges where they could, like Rosicrucians and the Theosophical Society. These were studies on how to integrate thought and concepts to be able to, improve or alter or expand your awareness. Witchcraft, things related to that were basically the wise old woman, that was usually a hermit, lived out in the woods, and was an herbalist. Had a spider up in one corner for the cobweb, which would cauterize a wound better than anything, like a tourniquet even. You could put that's a Navy SEAL thing. Using spider web will cauterize a wound that is bleeding too freely and needs to be tourniqueted. You can stop some of that with spider web. Now, of course, infection, everything that you can relate to in mythology associated with witchcraft and sorcery, which are lower ends of disciplining the mind, basically have roots in chemistry and what they would call alchemy. As chemistry came out of alchemy, so now in this future, I believe that magic will actually replace physics.
Okay, well, one thing that I noticed historically has been that the Christian church has been on a crusade to wipe out witchcraft around the world, and they've murdered hundreds of thousands of people who had the indigenous knowledge of white Europeans primarily.
Well, let me give you an example of somewhere in that. The Catholic Church, of course, is only a little over 2,000 years old, and is trying to control society with possibly the last pope. There was a friend of mine that wrote this book about all the witch burnings in France in the 17th century, and he was able to accurately provide data to show that in every single witch burning, it was associated with ergot poisoning. And the people, would be eating contaminated wheat, rye.
Well, actually, rye, ergot's the precursor for LSD, correct?
Yes, and they would experience an altered state of consciousness where, people thought they were in league with the devil. And, of course, someone having taking LSD like in just eating bread, what happens next is they don't know what's going on either. And, of course, conceptually, we never even had those concepts of addiction or anything like that back then. And so, of course, it was easy to blame it on something outside the system. Now, the back part of his book, he proved that every single witchcraft in this area of France was all traceable to ergot poisoning. It's the same thing. There was an ergot poisoning outbreak. The next thing you know, they were hanging witches. And at the end of the book, he demonstrates that the Catholic Church knew about ergot 100 years before these witch burnings and were absolutely using this as a way to manipulate political movement. For me, I use magic as a way of being, and I would say that magic, a magician, is only as good as his word. And so that's the first definition of towards saintship. Walk that talk, you do that kind of thing. So, with that said, that's why I have, basically, magic for me is an advanced form of physics. Basically what I would consider paranormal. At some point in the school, I'll figure it out and have a model. Won't be real, but it'll be something on how I think how it works. Actually, the way it all works is that everything starts on the inside and is projected outward. I would say that imagination is reality, and that everything else is a construct of that, and the discontinuity of thoughts going on inside yourself that create conflict, internal landscapes that are limiting. And so it's kind of like, from a metaphor, we came from perfect love, we're going to return to perfect love, and what life here is sort of like experiencing personal love and all the trauma and joy that comes with it.
I understand completely. Well, let's try to. I need to ask some questions about with magic as to what is possible. What can we? Let me rephrase the question. What have you experienced as having been possible, and what are the limits? Do we know?
There are no limits. That's what all of the saints in history have said. That and today the idea is you're no longer at war with the physical world, that's the illusion, and that if you wish to change the world, all you have to do is change yourself, and the world changes with you. And it's literally true. I can give you archetypal constructs on how that works, arguments, but none of it is really real. Anything that you could imagine is most likely true, and even more. It's like figure yourself in fourth grade. You don't have a clue. You're talking about, Miss Brown, your teacher, and you're out on the playground, and like when some person can run across that playground way faster than you can, but you can somehow, you're working patrol or whatever you're doing. It's like we're all in fourth grade, and we're all here to do something important. And basically, the physical plane is kind of like a place where we go to be sick spiritually. We don't have a clue. Once we connect with our inner self, it's like a magical memory is what Crowley called it. That's where you see what you were in your past lives and then pick up where you left off in a previous life, doing your purpose here on Earth. And everybody's got a purpose, and everybody is just as important as someone else. If you choose not to do it, no problem. Time's the illusion. We'll just bring you back as a slug, and you can figure it out that way.
Well, let's talk about. I'm reading your book, Power Tools for the 21st Century. I'm reading it right now. I just finished the chapter on the archetypes and how you
mythical living, yes.
How you can connect and really interview these archetypes that exist internally to your, into your own mind.
Well, that came originally from the Tree of Life. It's an old Hebrew system that talk about the 22 paths to the different places, and that are called Sephirah. Malkuth is your physical plane. Yesod is your emotional plane. Tiphereth is your Christ consciousness or self-realization. These are places in consciousness development. Now, we're all in all of those different places in different extents, but we're primarily mostly hanging out in our emotional state trying to figure it all out. And there are paths then that go from Yesod to, let's say, Malkuth, and then from Malkuth going up to Tiphereth, and Tiphereth going up to Kether, or God. And then there are the outer paths, the male and female paths. At the very top of the chart, the top going to God, the two primary paths are the hermit or the lovers. You either go in androgynous, where you have union with yourself, or you go in with a mate, where the mate represents a physical representation of that internal feminine part of yourself. And those are the two ways you get to God. And crossing them in the middle of what they call the abyss is humor. You've got to do it with an internal landscape that's healthy, where you're laughing. That's what structures the water and sets up the health in your organs, even more important than your food selections.
Well, that's a side topic, but let's talk about that a little bit, because I read the article you sent me today, the link actually to the structured water issue.
Dr. Jerry Pollack, some of the other people that are doing that work in structured waters. Basically, the way you can envision structured water, you can look at a snowflake and how uniquely different each one is under a microscope. They have a structure to them that expands out on itself in a manner that is so infinite in possibilities that you have an infinite forms of snowflakes. And if that's systems of water and you stack those on top of each other, that's what we would call the memory in water, the structuring of going from one thing to another. And so the first element for measuring that is called pH, or your acidic or alkaline level of that. The body coming out of the ground, water is normally a pH of 7. It's neutral. What you really want before, when you take water into your body, you really want the water to be around 8.4 in pH. That's slightly alkaline. Bottled water, soda are always acidic. And so this is why they're more toxic, because when you take acidic waters in your body's not able to assimilate those, and so it has to remove water from the bone marrow. And it takes time to get the water back in there, and so most people are semi-dehydrated. They're not healthy. And if their internal landscape is not filled with a bunch of joy, they're depressed. This is going to affect the water that's up against the organ, inside that organ. And the water in your body is even more important than the foods you eat. And that's what I'm now discovering, and why a lot of the people that are most healthy are probably eating raw. They don't destructure water. This is all part of walking what we call pathworking, where you're moving your consciousness and your body as a single unit, where you see the one to the other as a metaphor. And the different paths that connect all these different places, like union with self and God and the places like that, these different paths that go there, there's 22 of them, and that's what normally would be called the Tarot, or what they are is 22 stories in the big city. The psyche at the well has a certain kind of an outcome to it.
Hang on, let me ask a question here. But before we leave the water topic and go to the tarot topic, what can people do to de-acidify or to alkaline their water properly so that they're not taking in water that is essentially somewhat toxic to them?
Sure. Yeah, I filter all of my water. I started with a Brita, which works fine. I'm now using a Berkey. I use them actually both, And then that gives me a clean, filtered pH of 7. And then you can use some electrolysis where you put a couple of electrodes in the water to electrically stimulate the water. That will cause it to become H7O9 with a free radical ion. Another way you can do it is you can pour water like a waterfall. Just the water stripping across itself and falling will cause the water to change its alkalinity. The way we do it when you go to a restaurant is that you can carry baking soda and you put a very tiny pinch of baking soda in the tap water they might be serving you. And that will at least change the pH enough that it's assimilable to your body. Never use ice. You know the rules. You know, there's a bunch of rules on that. But water is what most of us do not do. We're now used to putting flavorings of some kind in it. And so the filters of your liver and your kidneys.
Richard, I have we're going long into a break here. I got to cut you off. We'll be right back after this short break with more with Dr. Richard Allen Miller. This is Mike Harris on RentsRadio.com. Today is December 4th, 2013. My guest this evening is Dr. Richard Allen Miller. And Rick, before we go on, do you have any closing comments about water for the listeners before we go on to the tarot?
Sure, and I just wanted to personally thank you for asking me to talk on my most favorite topic, even though I'm all over the map with it. This is my first interview where I'm actually going to get into the purpose and structure of magic and why. And if we want to continue this and there's interest, I'd be happy to. It is a really heavy-duty form of physics. Water is there's a grade school program experiment where the grade school kid will take microwaved water and tap water and feed it to two different plants. And the plant that's fed the microwaved water will die because the water is destructured and the plant cannot use it or identify it as water in order to use it in photosynthesis and, moving fluids around inside the plant. And the plant will die. It's because the microwave destructures the water from the inside out. Boiling water will destruct the water from the outside in, but not nearly as thorough because of bubbling and other kinds of things. You still get a reformation of the water structuring. And but this is an argument for going raw.
Well,
we don't know what we don't know.
That's also why people never boil the water for coffee or tea. It gets near boiling, but not too boiling.
Well, of course, when you bring it to boil, you'll get those oils to release out of that coffee bean a lot better. The hotter it is, that's why they use steam infusion, to make espresso so they can get that drive of those oils, which is, dissolved by water somehow. They don't dissolve it, but they release out of the bean using steam. Really, boiling water will not totally destruct it. Microwave is pretty thorough.
Okay.
Because, you're doing it from the inside out. And that would be on all layers of the hologram. And so you're actually completely destructing water. Waterfall water, that's why people feel so well when they're around a waterfall. The air is ionized with free radical ions that allow your body to function way, way better. Healthier.
The negative ion charged water from waterfalls are smaller, so you can take in more oxygen through your lungs.
Well, that's one theory. Actually, it has more to do with such things as ATP, your juice. Your adenosine triphosphate is keyed off that free radical ion when it's working with water. So, and there's different structures, starting with old man Willard water, and then now, there was Kerry Reams and others. Today, Emoto is out of Japan is suggesting that you can, through thought alone, restructure and clean water. And he did some demonstrations that were reproducible, and now why he's on tour and people are using that in such movies as What the Bleep. I'm actually going to be speaking with him in February down at a large consciousness conference in Puebla, Mexico. And so that's how I'm going to get a chance to meet him. My relationship to it is with Dr. Jerry Pollack, who was my lead when I worked in the military. Jerry has a new book out called The Fourth Phase of Water, where he is now demonstrating what they call the EZ zone, or the exclusion zone boundaries of water when it touches a surface, whether it's glass or an internal organ like your liver or kidney. These are important. The water with the surface tension will form a layer between the surface it's touching and the water itself, and that's called the EZ zone, where there's a series of layerings where that water will try to walk up that wall in a surface tension thing. And predicated on what pH is.
I have to keep us on topic here, and I promised the listeners that we talk about tarot. So can we move off the water for a little bit? We can always come back, but I don't want to miss the opportunity to talk about tarot.
I'm just an encyclopedia. I can talk all night on any of this stuff. So, yeah.
Hey, not sure how long that was, but I hope you got a lot from it, and thanks for still being here to the end of this, alright? So, yeah, interesting topic. Hey, cognitive function, lymphatic systems, hydration, tools, and salt and stuff like that. I wonder what you knew before this and getting to this point now, what you've learned, alright? And how much you can feel in your body of the potentials in some of these things that you can add to the repertoire of who you are to master your inner garden, alright? Let alone cognitive function. And then, it might just be the edge to help get you out of a fog, like a depression or something like that. And, to have another gear of mastering your emotional state, and then your body feels really good, and then you have a lot more physical capacity and operate at a very high level, right? To maintain the inner MJ, right? Like I like Michael Jordan Last Dance, right? Like be thorough, relentless, and all that sort of stuff, right? So yeah, I hope so far there's a lot of information in this. Water's a fascinating thing, right? The body, how it reacts to our environment, how it reacts to water, how we might have issues that we don't know, how much we don't know and we're not afforded to know, but how much or how easy it is to just expand what we know and employ a few things in a certain way that might be a massive addition to our quality of existence, right? Just feeling good in your body, feeling good mentally, feeling nourished, feeling hydrated. And to me, it's like our cognitive function is a massive variable that unfortunately we have to take responsibility for, because how this world is, there is, from my perspective, a lack of desire of wanting us operating in our full cognitive ability, let alone then being a launch pad to our pattern recognition, seeing through things, and then launching our intuitive potential as a byproduct of all that, alright? So, thank you for being here, alright? I'm just going to round it out. Maybe this is, like I said at the start, I had a bit of a really vast sort of variables of people and concepts coming in at the right time and stuff, and me just wanting to break up my theme and offer you a very potent resource as this is to help you endure everything and stuff, and really determine your own fate, take control of your body and stuff, and be empowered with knowledge and wisdom, right? So I offered a lot of tools, a few books and a few people, and I'll probably put a lot of links in the video in the description below and stuff like that. But I hope this is a really, really potent video for you. I think it's going to be like, I might just be exactly what a lot of you want right at the right time, right? So I really hope you feel very empowered by this. I hope you engage your intuitive potential and intuitive potential healing as well if you need help. I really highly recommend being proactive on the healing and stuff, right? To help clear out a lot of the blocks and I've had some really awesome sessions this week. I haven't had a lot, but like I said, I've had some really big interactions over the last few months and stuff, and I had a couple really profound full infinites this week that were very awesome with the people and helping them to, you know, endure some really horrible stuff that they're going through. Some really targeted people that body has been a real issue. It's funny, like I have really a cool bunch of people that are suffering enormously and a lot of pain, and I watched the series Star Trek Discovery again that came out, I think 2017-18, and the very first series, it's like a parallel universe sort of thing, and in this alternate universe where, if you understand Star Trek, there's all this thing about the Federation, and the humans are forming alliance with all the other species to create a really good sort of, you know, a noble sort of political group that want the best and have rules and stuff like that. Well, in this evil alternate universe, humans are called Terrans, and they're the dominant species, and they're dominating all the Klingons and the Vulcans and stuff like that. They have this particular tool called an agonizer where they will put people in and they just create pain, right? So I've got this whole group of people that unfortunately they're going through such pain in their bodies. It's like there's an aspect of them in an agonizer, right? So that might be a cool series for you to go out and start watching. The second series was all about, like the second season was all about time travel and stuff, which was really epic as well. But that first season, watching that, was I'll probably get clips related to influences and stuff, but I've included many clips like Dr. Emoto, Paul Chek, Barbara O'Neill, and Richard Alan Miller, and I'm not sure if I included a very expanded Dr. Emoto clip in this. The one at the start might be enough. There's a lot of moving parts here, but yeah, I really feel that this might be the sweet spot for so many of you out there. So as always, I really appreciate you being here and allowing me to be a part of your journey. I hope you get a lot from this, and I'll leave it here, right? I hope it leaves you with a lot of questions and a lot of interest in the people and subject and tools and books and stuff, and you get a lot from it, and you go hunting, be relentless, epic, mega being that we are, right? So I really hope this is an ally to see there's more potential in you you didn't really realize, and maybe had a lot of gaps relative to hydration and lymphatic system and salt and stuff like that, and you just try it out and see what happens, and maybe you're the one that we've been waiting for to really let it rip, alright? So thanks as always for allowing me to be a part of the journey. I hope you get a lot from this, and until next time, the brat from down under, enjoying your salt, alright? And the hot beaches and stuff like that, and the water down here, okay? So until next time, Andre out.
November, heading for the city lights. 975, we sharing each other, nearer than farther. The scent of the lemon drips from your eyes. We are the people that rule the world, what's running in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now. We can drive a little adventure, love in the summer, follow the sun tonight, reminiscing of the times of life. For each every other, the feeling is stronger. Shock at 11, got lost in your eyes. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can you remember in human nights? It was so where we'd energize, lie in the sand and visualize like it's 75 again. We are the people that rule the world, what's running in every boy and girl, all rejoicing in the world. Take me now. We can drive. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Everything about you, know everything about me, know everything about us. I know everything about you, know everything about me, know everything about us. Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now? Can't do why when I think you're gonna leave me, but I'm gonna try. Are you gonna leave me now? Can't you be believing now?
John Lilly once put it this way: there are no limits at all to the human mind whatsoever, except those we impose on ourselves because of our beliefs. And those limits are also beliefs to be transcended. And that's a view that suggests that the possibilities of human transformation are virtually infinite. And we have no way of knowing the outer horizon of what it means to be human.
And really, to understand all this, everything, you have to go very, very deep into a study of history, consciousness, neurophysiology, everything. You have to be the supreme eclectic type of leaning, and you really have to be wanting to know who you are and what everything's about.
And the thing that you'll find when you go to sacred sites, if you're very humble about it, is that you are on a personal journey, and the sacred site will respond to you in a way that is appropriate only to you. The information is always what you are searching for. And it's the intent you give that energy that defines whether it is used for right action or not. And it is inside these sacred spaces that you will be reminded that you are a god, that you are a bright star.
So what you're trying to do is move through the course without ricocheting off walls or creating karma. You're trying to slide through things smoothly. How do you do that? It's called flowing. There's a technique that you can do that will allow you to touch some part of your inner being that has more knowledge than your conscious state does.